What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Salty Runbak, here to be your weekly intake of North American Developmental League of Legends. Not a lot of action happened in the semi-pro space, but we did have, of course, our CLOL regional finals. We're getting ready for the big bracket announcement coming this Monday, I believe. So we'll be talking about all of that, our bracketology predictions, as well as answering a couple of questions from you guys in our annual, semi-annual Q&A slash break week episode, I guess. It's episode 48. We're getting very, very close to 50, and we appreciate all the support from everybody over the last year or so. My name is Grapes. I'm joined alongside Hawk. Hawk, how are you doing today?
Grapes, today's been fine. I coached some more. Coaching's been a lot of fun on the Running the Rift Combine. So shout out to all the players I've gotten to work with. I don't know if any of you all are watching the pod, but it's been a really good time kind of going to the other side of the competitive space for the first time in a while, and I've really been enjoying doing that. Otherwise, though, I'm not going to lie, it's been not a great day for the ecosystem, as I'm sure people have seen, so, we're taking it in stride.
Yeah, there's some news that keeps coming out that we're going to talk about a little bit, mostly involving, semi-pro and collegiate as well. I know Hotline League just did a big semi-pro Path to Pro episode, and so that things are kind of going all over the place when Hotline League is talking about what we're talking about on this show. So
Travis just dropped like the Perry retirement Dunzo manifesto. Like, dude, it's the Wild West out there right now.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out, of course, to the combines as well that are going on. I know I'm not participating in it. I kind of just wanted like a week off before things start to get rolling again, probably for the end of my school semester and also for CLOL and everything like that. But Hawk, I know you've been coaching. There's been a lot of great broadcasts going on. So if you are still looking for some semi-professional League of Legends, some semi-pro, some amateur stuff, there's a lot of lobbies happening every single day. So I think those are still going to be happening as this episode comes out. So make sure to stay tuned and maybe you'll catch your favorite, Salty Runback host doing a little coaching. You can go criticize his drafts in the Twitch chat.
Yeah, I've been posting them on Twitter too, so you can flame me there if you want to. I 4x4 mentioned me on the cast yesterday when I was doing Lobby 3. That was pretty funny. Shout out Hank.
Who's the best? Who's like your favorite player to coach so far?
Dude, Cross is my goat. I love that guy.
Let's go Cross.
Like, I've worked with a lot of really good players, but I just feel like Cross is like, I've like vibed with him, like, because we've done content before twice now, actually. So like, I already knew him going in, which I think helped a lot. And he's like, oh shit, like my goat Hawk is coaching, and I'm like, yo, let's go.
Yeah, it must be cool to kind of be on the other side of that. I know I personally could not do that. Like I could maybe coach some like gold players or something, but like
sure.
Like these guys
don't sell yourself too short,
but yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. Shout out, of course, to all the players that are competing. Running the Rift has been doing a great job.
The only thing I was gonna say too is on the Running the Rift point. You mentioned games should be still going while this episode comes out. They're going through Sunday, so it's a whole week-long combine. So by the time this episode releases, there should still be multiple days of games that you can go catch.
Yeah, make sure to check all that out. Of course, a lot of those players will be competing in the CLOL Championships, and I guess that's where we can start off as we get into our headlines for the episode. Of course, we mentioned the CLOL Regional Finals. Those all ended up happening. Congratulations to all the winners of those conferences. Also, the 3rd, 5th, and 7th place games ended up happening this weekend as well. So a lot of different games that determined seeding and also potentially had implications in terms of boosting stock, lowering stock for the CLOL seeding committee before the bracket gets unveiled this Monday. Hawk, I'm going to let you go any direction you want here. Out of any of the matches that happened over this last weekend, which CLOL team boosted their stock the most?
So there's only one answer here, and then we can talk about all the other teams. But there is a correct answer here, and it is Weber State. Winning West, y'all, if you don't know, Weber State 12-0'd West playoffs. They 3-0'd UCI, they 3-0'd UCSD, they 3-0'd some other shitters. Like, dude, this team is unreal. They're so far above West, and I know like we love to go West XD all the time. I mean, I'm one of the biggest West XD believers if I'm keeping it a buck with you. Like, this team just completely shattered the rest of the conference, and they are seemingly very far ahead in performance, which is so interesting because they actually, I want to say, were the highest elo team coming into the year, but of course that doesn't mean much when you're a lot of times valuing teams based on like competitive experience and things like that. So a team with low pedigree coming in, making an achievement like this is truly an incredible feat, and I think they have undoubtedly raised their stock more than anyone else could have hoped.
I want to shout out Shonatonen, who is, of course, one of the biggest followers of CLOL in the space. He was a big Weber State voucher even before like the playoffs ended up happening. You saw like they were high in solo queue. He actually ended up voting them and vouching for them while they applied to be a part of the NACL qualifiers, a part of that Swiss stage, which UCI ended up getting into both stages of. Maybe, looking back, we should have ended up voting for Weber State instead of UCI for at least that second qualifier because, yeah, Weber looked really good. I got to talk to some of their players while I was streaming VOD reviews of some of the regional finals.
Oh, hell yeah.
How that team ended up forming is, Sendilian wanted to go to CLOL, got in contact with Weber State, and they said, hey, we need a couple more players, and brought on Zadox and St. Daniel, who are part of course, Glaive Esports Prime, which is a roster back in 2021 that I was able to follow back in like leagues like Risen and Divine League and things like that. So these are players that have been around for a while, but really first making their presence known in this space specifically. And 3-0ing a team like UCSD and UCI, who, both are very storied organizations in West. Very, very impressive stuff. And, of course, in terms of the other players that they had, specifically in the mid lane, they got Goku, who was in the CBLOL for like 10 years as well. So they have like a lot of experience in a lot of different places. And it's all coming together where the stocks for Weber State are very, very high right now.
Dude, imagine going from playing with the two greatest Brazilian players of all time, BRTT and Robo, and like playing at MSI to playing for Weber State alongside Zadox and winning West. I mean, like, my goat, Goku.
I mean,
yeah.
I will say, looking at some of the more recent results, like this is the first time he's won anything in quite a while. So congratulations
Damn,
to Goku.
That's fucked up. You're a bad man for that, Grapes. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, but like, jeez.
He looked pretty good. I was very impressed by Zadox specifically in the finals against UCSD. I'm happy about Weber. I think UT Dallas also gets a shout for somebody who raised their stock a lot, taking 2 games off of that UST roster, even though they, weren't necessarily at full strength. Array was at a wedding, so the team wasn't like playing at full strength. But they had Nova playing bot lane, and I think a team with Porsche, Kenvi, Robbie Bob, Trevor, and then Nova playing bot lane is still a very good CLOL team. And so being
that's
able to
a top
take
8 team,
and forcing UST to like go from a more standard traditional playstyle to putting Nova on Seraphine and winning that way by just like having better team fighting comps, like Kenvi ganked top lane and then dove bot lane like 3 times. Like Kenvi got fed 1 game, Porsche got fed another game, just because of the strategy that they ended up playing. Very unorthodox style that not a lot of teams are going to be able to replicate. And so for UT Dallas, I think definitely looked very good. I think their top laner, Arya, also was pretty solid. Had a couple of games where he solo killed Porsche a few times and looked good in team fights. And the big thing for them is that the wins that they had against UST were kind of come from behind wins where they were down 4,000 gold and then would actually just out team fight them and end up winning. And that's something that, if you're like a team upsetting a lot of the times, it's like, winning really hard in the early game and just stopping from there. But that wasn't what happened. The team play from UT Dallas looked pretty good.
Yep. I definitely agree. UT Dallas comes out looking good. I saw a lot of discourse that was acting like that was some Mickey Mouse 3-2 because UST didn't have Array. Like, I want to reiterate this. UST with Nova is still a top 8 CLOL team. They should be. So that's still a really big... Yeah, that's a big look for UT Dallas. And I was annoyed by that. So yeah, I think UT Dallas deserves the credit that they're getting, for sure. Like I'm glad that you brought them up. Just to shout out some other people as well, like maybe outside of the finals, Boston University avoiding getting reverse swept by Waterloo. That was big for them. That definitely secured, I would say, their spot in the college championship. You've got ISU proving that they're still relevant, even though they don't have Disconnector by going 5 games against Northwood. That's a good look for that team as well. So, like a couple other schools come out looking pretty good. And maybe to get into our next headline, I think the other obvious option is, well, actually, I want to talk about really quick, Maryville 3-0'd SLU. That's
Yeah.
a little concerning for the rest of collegiate. Maryville just put every single other CLOL team on notice with that win, so that's maybe relevant. Something to look out for. But as far as moving into like changing favorites, we can talk about that Maryville win, and then also St. Clair only dropped one game in East playoffs. Grapes.
Yeah, I want to first talk about that Northern Conference Finals as well, because I was really looking forward to actually watching that series, and Maryville just kind of made it look like
It was
they were
not
playing
close.
like a plat team.
It was.
I
Not
mean,
close.
the first game was a little bit back and forth, and there was some close fights and things like that. It did go back and forth a little bit. Aaron ended up getting pretty fed, I believe, in that first game, but the rest of it was just all Maryville, and it was like the kind of gameplay that Maryville plays when they know that they're just so much better than their opponent, and they'll screw around a little bit. They'll do a little bit of limit testing. That I think definitely is something that is going to be an interesting thing to look at. And speaking of, the favorites in CLOL has been a topic of conversation for a while. We'll move on to our next headline here. Going into the start of this year, I think a lot of people had the top six. It was Maryville, SLU, Winthrop, Ole Miss, UST, and Fisher. And I think in general, like I think the general consensus was those were the teams that had the best ability to win a championship, and those were maybe the only teams that had the possibility to win a championship. Since then, a lot has changed. Fisher running a bit of a new roster. UST, of course, dropping some of those games. Winthrop recently looking shaky. Ole Miss, who knows how they are going to be able to look. And also some teams coming in that have looked very, very strong, particularly St. Clair, who made the case for themselves on social media after their win 3-1 over the University of Western Ontario, that they deserve to potentially get a top 4 seed and get consideration into a 1 seed for finals. So, Hawk, I guess my question to you is, this group of 6, has it grown to include some of these teams that are coming up, or has it really shrunk to really just narrow it down?
It's shrunk, Grapes. So first of all, I respect St. Clair a lot for calling their shot, and I think this team's really exciting, and I'll get into that in a second. But as far as like this top 6, I think realistically it's shrunk, and I think we're actually starting to see more divisions between the top teams, sort of starting to shake out, right? Which honestly, if you're the pack, like, take a gulp, because all of a sudden now you're like 5 tiers below like Maryville right now, because Maryville is looking like the very obvious favorite to win CLOL right now, with I would probably say SLU and maybe even Ole Miss hot on their heels, fresh off their 3-0 in NACC. Winthrop looks like they've been struggling to take that next step, even though I think they're still definitely in the conversation. And UST likewise, I mean, we've just not really seen what they're actually capable of. And at some point, you do have to ask the question of, like, what are they capable of, right? And so, like, that's the kind of thing you have to look at as well. Aside from that, you've got Fisher and St. Clair, which I would say are solidly, like, tier 3 now, Grapes. And I think to the part of this question, I think St. Clair has solidly put themselves in that conversation. I think they are definitely the 6th best team in the nation right now. They're probably ahead of Fisher. I think they've been playing really, really well. I do think St. Clair has a good team, but the problem for them is I don't think that they're going to be competitive with the best of the best.
Yeah, St. Clair, I was very impressed with the way they were able to play map and play macro. And I know talking to some of their players, that is something that they have been particularly happy with, how they've been able to execute. The roster of 5 is not nearly as, individually talented as the rosters of some of these other top CLOL teams, and I think that is the biggest differentiator in terms of why people are not considering this team to be a part of the pack. But the way that they play together, I honestly, like, watching their final series, I thought rivaled, like, some of the more cohesive teams that we have in the space, those like Ole Miss and Maryville. I think, Rockboom is going to be him down there in the bottom lane. Maddie follows a very similar strategy to, teams like Northwood and SLU, where they just can't bot lane the first 10 minutes and try to get their ADC ahead as far as possible. And the rest of the team does a good job kind of surrounding that. And so I am happy about St. Clair. I do think that on a good day, they can upset some of the number 1 seeds. Have the favorites changed? I don't necessarily think so. And you can look at this from 2 ways. I think right now, like, if like CLOL finals were right now just like based off of who is going to play better on this specific day, I think there are 3 potential people, 3 potential teams that could win. And if we're looking at teams that have like the highest ceiling, I think there are also 3 potential teams that could win. If we're looking at like who's the best right now, I think that there's a very clear top with Maryville, and then like SLU and Ole Miss could potentially contest, as you said. If we're looking at teams with the highest ceiling and the biggest areas to improve on, and if we're looking at every team at their absolute peak, I think we're looking at Maryville, SLU, and UST. And I think, unfortunately, Winthrop in a situation where they're not hot like Ole Miss, and I don't think their roster necessarily has the ceiling as a team like St. Louis or UST. But, that could all change as we continue to progress throughout the season. But I do think right now we're looking at 3, maybe 4 teams that could potentially hoist that trophy at the end of the year.
Yep, I'm in agreement. I think St. Clair has solidly put themselves in tier 2. I don't think they're one of the favorites. Although, I'm excited about this team, and I am really hoping Maryville doesn't just run away with it. I mean, last year Maryville and UST were the overwhelming favorites. They ended up running away with it all the way until the finals. I don't think either of them dropped a game until the finals. Did UST drop a game to SLU? No, they didn't.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't think either of them dropped a game all the way to finals in that whole championship. I honestly would not be surprised if Maryville does something similar. I do think the question will be, how does everybody else fare?
Yeah, they look really strong right now. But again, the sentiment is that this is the most competitive CLOL that we have had.
It is
in a very long
there
time,
is
and I think I would agree with that.
Thick soup from seeds like more. I would have to look at it, but like probably like 3 to 6, right? Like it's clumpy.
I think
it's clumpy.
Yeah, like 2 to 7 is very clumpy, and then like 8 to 15 is also very clumpy, and then the rest of it, like who the hell knows right now at this point. Like it was very interesting.
Oh, sorry, and I
mean
when I say seeds 3 to 6, I mean like but what I mean by that is like what?
Like the blocks
9
of 4.
to I mean the group
Gotcha.
of 4, so like 9 to 24, right? Like that is it's pretty soupy.
Yeah, and of course, talking to people, they think that Maryville will not go unbeaten, and I'm hoping that ends up happening. We get some competitive games. Where we will potentially get some competitive games, Hawk, is in Boise, Idaho, where it was announced that GG Tech will be hosting both the CLOL and the CVAL finals at Boise State University. They have an esports arena over there. I'm not sure. Do you think it's like all blue like the football field is as well?
Dude, I'm sad it's not going to be on the football field. We need it.
That would be really cool.
Yeah,
finals in the football stadium.
In the football stadium on the blue field.
But yeah, there's been a lot of discourse around this decision. Of course, GG Tech sold out the rights to collegiate esports to this company, and they've been in charge of both the tournament operations and the potential broadcasts of all of these events. And after the CLOL Championships went from 8 teams to 4 teams in the Riot Games Arena in 2023, and people said, and then the Riot ended up saying, like, we hope that this is just a partial solution, and then we'll be able to get the top 8 back into LA or back into the studio back at LAN at some point. They ended up going the other way and getting it to not only not in LA, which I think is maybe the lesser problem, but also just shrinking the amount of teams that are going to be competing in LAN, shrinking the size of just this entire project as a whole. So I don't know if there's really a question here, Hawk. I think it's just our chance to kind of speak on the situation.
Yeah, this sucks. Don't really have much else to say. I don't know. This headline has been frustrating for me. Like, it's so disappointing. Because I don't know. People are quote retweeting the, hopefully it's only this year that we only have top 4 in studio. Hopefully in 2024 it's different. And I know that like everyone involved with that got laid off. So like, it's hard, but, it just feels like as much as we hope things will change, they either stay the same or change for the worse. It's going to sound weird. I don't think it being in Boise is that bad. Cause like for as awesome as it is to have people in the LCS studio, and I'm very bummed it's not in the LCS studio, like I can see the argument for like, let's put it at a college that like maybe these schools could get to easier. You know what I mean? If we're going to do it like MEC, or not MEC. Yeah. MEC style or like Hugh style
MEC,
or 66, right? Like these schools could more realistically get to a more central place, cheaper lodging, right? Like it's way easier to pay for that with the budget, all of this kind of stuff. I like can totally subscribe to that, honestly. And I don't think like I don't have anything against Boise, even though it's just in the fucking middle of nowhere, but like it's fine, Boise seems all right, I guess. I think the really big problem for me is it's only finals. I mean, these collegiate players, we talked about this last year. I think we had a very similar headline on the show a year ago. I'd actually be really curious to find a clip where we're like, man, these collegiate players play all year for the hope of making top 8 to go play at LCS. And now you have to make finals to go play in Boise. That's terrible. And not only that, I don't really want to get too into the weeds, but like I think we're gonna have more disappointing news about CLO come out as the days come as well. So I'm pretty down in the dumps about this. I'm not gonna lie.
Going from 4 teams to 2 teams, it's disgraceful. And I know that you're trying to save money, but you're saving money already by not going to LA. You're saving money already by being at a university and potentially being in a location that you can house the players for less. You can fly them out for potentially less. It seems like all a very half-assed attempt, and I don't think it helps anyone. I don't think it helps the community. I don't think it helps the scene. I don't think it helps the company either. Like, it's not like they're benefiting from doing nothing about this. And so I hope that the community is able to like speak out in a way and give some direction, and hopefully whoever's in charge will listen. Let's move on to some happier news here, Hawk, because I there's no need to keep being down in the dumps about everything.
Yeah, I guess we can talk about how good Srtty is.
Yeah, we had some good news coming out from a friend of the program, FlyQuest NACL winning top laner Srtty, who has been on a tremendous run in NA solo queue as of late. I believe he has like a 90% win rate. Was hit 1,000 LP before hitting 10 losses on his account, which is something that I could never even relate to at all. But this guy has been getting a lot of attention on Reddit specifically, and a lot of people now calling for him to be promoted into the LCS. Of course, we already knew that this guy was very LCS caliber because we've been watching a lot of the games in NACL and things like that. My question to you, Hawk, is all this praise super deserved, and is Srtty the most deserving player to get promoted into the LCS from the Challengers League last year?
Yes. I have nothing else to say. I think someone said it best. If maybe it was like Kangas, he said if Srtty does not play in the LCS next summer, this region is so unserious, and I just think it's so true. This guy is just better, and I think there's a lot of people that could potentially deserve to be LCS, but like I'm gonna be straight. I could think of multiple top laners that Srtty is better than right off the bat, and I think we're just like at this point, it's the kind of thing where we ask the question of like, why is this guy not here already? And we know why. It's because NA sucks and EG exploded and fuck EG. But like, still, I mean, it's like, guys, we gotta like, it's almost like we promote our talents after they've been baking in the oven so long, they're well done, and then they've lost all their flavor. Like, man, why can't we get like a medium rare steak once in our life? Make Srtty a medium rare steak, man.
We have in some other positions, most notably Masu and Busio.
This is true.
Also part of FlyQuest.
Masu was a medium rare steak. Masu was a medium rare steak. Yeah.
At the end of the day, I know overall it's going to be very difficult for Srtty to find a spot this season, not only because the teams in LCS have been reduced to 8 teams, but also a new import has just come into the league as well in Thanatos. And
yeah,
so
surely.
That means that Fudge is going to be a free agent. We already have Licorice, who's a free agent. You have Someday, who's a free agent. And, of course, everyone else who currently is on an LCS roster.
Dude,
so
this is the Hawk.
There are not a lot of spots.
This
However,
is the Hawk
I
mental
would like
doom
to
episode,
see.
Okay? Like, surely bringing in more people like Thanatos and Castle is going to help cultivate fandom, because surely we're going to win Worlds instead of just actually trying to focus on North America.
Last time Cloud9 brought in a developmental Korean, it was Berserker, and I think that ended up actually.
This is true.
This
is true.
There are success stories here. Specifically on, I think, the teams that have the best infrastructure, and that's where, I would hope Srtty gets, offers from teams with, maybe lower infrastructures that aren't able to, house these imports the best way. But overall, I think he's the most deserving. You could give shout-outs to people like Yuji, who just won the MVP award, to Shaden, his teammate down there, to Chime in the support position as well.
Yep.
But I think in terms of the narrative and also in terms of just how well he played, particularly towards the end of the season, Srtty probably gets my nod as well.
Yeah, and having now talked to Srtty a bunch of times, like, this is just a guy that you want on a team. Like, he carries himself well. He's got a good brand. He's got a good personality. Like I think that is something that I wish teams factored in more. And so, yeah, I think Srtty's very deserving. I think there's a lot of deserving players, of course. I think you shouted a lot of them out. But, yeah.
Yeah, a lot about FlyQuest. That FlyQuest team was pretty good.
Shocker, man.
Yeah. Let's move on to our last headline, where we actually have a bit of an update for you all. Of course, we did a couple of episodes at the start of the season where we did things that we played some games, we did some drafts, and at the end of the day, we said we're going to come back after the split has concluded and check in to see who ended up doing better in these games. Of course, that was Salt Street Bets, which we've been doing for the last 3 splits, and our fantasy NACL teams, which actually ended up being a lot of fun. So make sure to check those episodes out if you haven't. We're going to go through all of them really quick and see how we did on each of them.
I know. Grapes, all I can say is you beat me twice in a row at Salt Street Bets. I'm really hoping I can bring it back this year. I'm really hoping I can bring it back this split.
So should we start with Salt Street Bets?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So as a reminder to everybody, you'll see the results on the screen right now, so you get spoiled a little bit if you are watching a video. We each bet on 3 NACL teams, 2 of them which we thought they would improve from where their regular season standing was at the moment, and then 1 team that we thought was going to do worse than where they currently were at. The money ended up doubling. There were bonuses for placements, or first or third, or getting relegated. We then picked 4 teams that we thought could promote into the NACL or make it to the promotion tournament at the very least. And then we picked 1 prop bet from both the NACL and the NACL qualifiers of different things that we were predicting and guessing could happen in the split. And we gave each other odds for that. Long story short, here are the bets. And Hawk, you actually ended up winning. Congratulations. By just a mere $200, I believe the final total was. I did the math wrong.
Yeah,
actually.
I think you mathed it out a little incorrectly.
It's
I think I should have 3,700
to 3,500. You ended up winning by $200 because of your prop bet that Yuji would be an MVP finalist at 3-1, which I said in the episode was very likely to happen, and you ended up talking me up to 3-1. It wouldn't have mattered either way.
It wouldn't have
mattered.
mattered.
2-1 or 3-1, you still would have won. But congratulations.
Let's fucking go. We're so back. I lied, guys. NA is the best it's ever been. We're so up right now. I think that we're going to the moon. Yeah. This is wow. I'm guys. I don't know what to say. I feel like I should have a speech prepared. No, I mean apparently the tech with prop bets is to just be so safe with it that you get that extra couple $100 because we actually went. I think the surprising thing is we went really even with our portfolios, which has not happened so far because normally you kind of blast me where what I have to look at it. So I had disguised AoE lit. I pushed on AoE, but I hit on disguised and lit where I put Oh, I actually put a lot of money on AoE. Wow, so I pushed a lot of money. But you also pushed a lot of money on Team Liquid. No,
I doubled. So I actually did very good for myself.
Oh, yeah.
But my ceiling was much lower than your ceiling because you had lit.
You took safer bets.
Shorted. And so with lit shorted, you'd both double the money that you invested in lit for going from 5th to 9th. And then you tripled that money by having them demote out of the NACL. So that went from $350 to $900, I believe, or something like that.
No, I got 20.
What number is it? $2,100.
I got $2,100 off of Lit Esports.
Yeah.
Yo,
so
shout out.
That's a large.
Shout out Lit for demoting.
But yeah, I got my doubled
so bad.
money
I
for
love
team,
that team so much.
I got my doubled money for Team Liquid, and then I got the bonus for them finishing in 3rd, and then I did as good as I could for both FlyQuest and Mirage. They were 1st and 10th at the time. They ended up finishing 1st and 10th with Mirage ending up relegating. So that ended up tripling my money in both. However, your lit bet really just took you over the edge. And,
yeah.
Even though I ended with $100 more, it was just that damn prop bet.
Yeah,
that
we
usually
took
ended up
some
winning.
good bets. I mean,
Yeah.
because you took Team Liquid, because not only did you get the double, but you also got the third place 1.5 to get it up to 1,200. Yeah,
Yep.
you got triple your money for Fly. Yeah, you took some really good bets. I mean, it really was that lit bet. 2,100 is fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah,
It's
that's
also
what you get for Hayden.
yeah. Honestly, that is what. It's that hate money that I get. I've been doing a lot of hating on this episode. I think this is the Hawk Mental Boom episode. It is really funny though, Grapes, looking at both of us having Morningstar White on our making promotion tournament lists, and then I have Redbirds and you have Team Fish Taco.
Yeah, neither of those ended up working out super well. Neither of
Those
us,
are
we didn't
so
know,
bad.
we didn't know about the CCG roster
No,
at the
we
time,
didn't.
and also putting Aporia probably would have been a bit chalk for us there. So, actually no, chalk would have been Lotus because they were in the semifinals as well.
Yeah.
This was like the weird episode.
This was
where
before we knew
did
that
the Morningstar
yeah.
White DQ into the Salt Street bets where we talked about Morningstar White for like 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
yeah, a little weird. Speaking of, you have the chance to win by even more if Yusin gets promoted to the LCS. Technically, we don't know that just yet, but I assumed that we were out of it and you would have won no matter what. So
Okay,
congratulations
Grapes.
on that.
Who goes to LCS, Yusin or Srtty?
Oh God, honestly, it's probably Srtty. I mean,
It's probably
the whole
Jet.
visa
It's
situation,
probably
which
Jet.
we weren't aware of, I think puts a bit of a wrench into the plans to sign Yusin. So we'll see. But that was our Salt Street bets. We can move on to our fantasy NACL results, which I think are going to be interesting as well. I thought I was going to do way worse on this than I actually ended up doing. But actually, I ended up getting pretty close. But Hawk, you ended up going for 2 for 2 on our challenges this split. Congratulations on that. You could take a look at the draft of the picks that we ended up selecting. Hawk, for the audio listeners, had Srtty, Winnie, Spyrax, Rockboom, and Daption. I had Faisal, Will, Young, Wixie, and Kimdown. The rules were we could only combined pick one player from each team, so all 10 teams were represented, and then we each picked and banned a champion that would have resulted in points getting doubled or halved depending on if they played those games on those champions. You can see the point calculators here. We rewarded kills, assists, CS, solo kills, and things like that with a couple of extra bonuses. And at the end of the day, Hawk, you ended up winning by about 300 points. So good stuff.
Yeah, dude. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good all of a sudden. I think the clear difference maker here is Spyrax Azir.
Yeah,
Holy
Spyrax
shit.
went crazy.
Yeah,
Because all 3 of his Azir games, he like popped.
I'm
the hell
sure.
off
Yeah,
them.
exactly. Oh, that worked out for me really well. I also think it's crazy that I got no Fiora picks from Srtty. You got 5 Cassante bans, and he still outscored Faisal by like 70 points. That's
Well, hey, you had
kind of
you had
wild.
6 Rumble bans on me too, so the
That's
differential
true.
was
That
actually
is
the
true.
same. And I actually did go through the numbers. The Olaf game that he had wasn't even that good, so the double for the Olaf pick actually wasn't super beneficial. Which
By
was
the
interesting
way-
because I really thought that Fides was going to play a lot of Olaf.
I did too. Olaf was pretty good this split too, so it is surprising. I want to say, by the way, everyone thank Grapes for putting together all the data and making these graphics. While I was coaching, running the Rift Combine, this guy put these graphics together, crunched all the numbers. So like,
No,
you're
it
my
was
goat
fun.
for that. Yeah.
I put together a little Excel spreadsheet.
Oh my God, did you
with
do all the math by
results
hand?
from Oracle's Elixir? No, I did use some formulas.
Oh yeah, good job. That's character development right there.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Grapes did all of the math for NACLQ All Pro by hand, and it was pretty funny to me.
Originally, fun fact, I didn't realize that the CSD at 15 was like plus or minus 1. So basically,
Oh,
if
yeah.
if you were up by 10 or more CS at 15 minutes, you got 1 extra point. If you were
Per
down
game.
10 or more CS per minute at a game, you get minus 1 point. I thought it was whatever the CSD at 15 per game was plus or minus points, and the funny part is Rockboom's score in that scenario went down so much because he sacked a lot of farm in a lot of the lanes that he had, particularly the game where he was against the Aaron Callista.
Yeah,
and
Rockboom
he had
would have like
20 CS at
300.
15 minutes. So he was at like 280, I believe, and then he jumped up to 500 with these changes. So it was only supposed to be like a little bump up and down depending on how well you were able to farm, not something that like decided the game. Spyrax, in that same sense, actually would have had like 1,000 points if you counted the CS numbers. So
That's crazy.
You got hurt and helped a little bit. At the end of the day, kind of a net positive or kind of just a net neutral for you.
Yeah, honestly, like the Spyrax, my goat. I mean, yeah, this worked out pretty well. I do feel like it is interesting. Like, I feel like fantasy obviously follows statistics. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the best players in fantasy were performing really well. But I do actually think this tells a story of like how a lot of individuals were performing, because I do think it's fair to say Srtty, Winnie, and Spyrax in particular, my top side, I think were three of the top performing players in the NACL, the split grapes. So,
Yeah.
them doing well definitely speaks volumes for sure.
I remember the debate that we had, where my last two picks, I ended up selecting Will and then Kim down, where what I probably should have done instead was pick Keel and then Dardoch at support, because support I think is pretty neutral. I'm likely to believe that Keel probably would have had better numbers than Will did this split, because
Probably.
Well, both teams didn't do that well in the regular season, but I think Keel had a lot more farm, probably got some more kills. So that, maybe it was a bit of a fumble on my end, but, I'm not 100% sure. But at the end of the day, I don't think it would have mattered too much, because he won by quite a bit.
Grapes.
Spyrax.
Shout out to Spyrax. Yeah, fucking crazy performance, man. But Grapes, thanks for letting me win the challenge of the split. I really needed that one. We can't let you have the only big brain on the show, right? So.
Well, yeah. Well, now we're officially 2 for 2.
Yeah,
so
true.
Whatever happens next split might, break that tie and have somebody smarter for the full year. So, that's gonna do it for our bit of an extended headlines, as we had a bit of our check-in here. We're gonna head to our part 2, where we're gonna actually answer some more questions, this time submitted by you guys. We're at that lull in the off season where there's not a lot of games happening, and there's not really a big part 2 that we could do. So we decided to hear from you guys in the community, the people that are keeping this show running, making sure that there's always some people watching our podcast episodes. And we did this last year as well. So and I thought it was a fun time. So we opened up a Twitter poll, or I guess just a tweet, a couple of days ago, where you guys were able to ask any questions that you had about League, about anything else, and we actually got a decent amount of responses, and we're going to answer some of those questions for you guys today.
Yeah, I know. I always love doing this. We actually got some really good questions this time, from a few different people, friends of the show, everything like that. So shout out anyone that replied to the Twitter thread. Hey, if you didn't see the Twitter thread, make sure you follow Salty Runback as well as myself and Grapes. You should follow all three so you can stay up to date with everything on the show. And it was a lot of fun when we did this last time. And also, Grapes, I was pleasantly surprised when, all the questions looked new this time as well. So I was like, oh, great. We have a lot of different stuff to answer that we've not talked about before.
Yeah, we got some good, serious questions. We got some good,
some good lore
questions
about, us. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's good.
So I guess we just pick from the bag. We have enough time, I think, to answer all of them. So
Definitely.
We'll probably end up doing that. I guess no better way to start talk than, I guess, if you want to pick the first question and we could talk about it.
All right. Let's start from Salty Runback's new biggest fan, Mr. Samikin here, who had quite a few questions.
Yeah, Samikin had a lot of questions. So do you want to go through all of them at the same time,
questions.
or do we want to kind of spread them out?
Let's go through one by one, so that way we don't overwhelm probably specifically the audio people. So let's start with Samikin's first question, which I'm gonna pick this one. Most hype game out of all of the NACL Open qualifiers / promotion games that you watched and or casted. So basically the most hype game out of all of the tier 3 split. What
are we talking about this? We're talking about this split specifically, or can we go back to previous years? Can we go back to last year? Because there's some bangers from last year too.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I interpreted this as this split.
Okay.
However, if you want to go back, maybe if you wanted to pick one from further back that you wanted to shout out, I'd be down.
I have a couple answers.
Okay. Yeah.
So in terms of this split specifically, I think the most hype game that I ended up watching. Oh, I have 2 or 3 from this one too. Okay. From this split, my answer is either the grand finals of qualifier number 1, game 5 between Aporia and Winthrop University, the big comeback from Aporia,
crazy.
Including Samikin on his signature Lux.
We're sitting there live watching music stream, Grapes and I in a call, and we're like, wow, Winthrop has won this. This game is so cooked.
That was a crazy matchup. Crazy game. We ended up getting to watch the full replay file afterwards as well, and that was great. Shout out to Music for streaming it as well. Samikin had a great game. Lynx and Rovex on the Blitzcrank as well, playing incredible in that big comeback. That was one of my favorite games this season. And my other answer, I think, would be Ole Miss versus CCG, game 1 of the group stage. not the grand finals. The Aurelion Sol, Shogo had like 20 kills on Kog'Maw into not being able to end the game because Bradley Aurelion Sol took over. I was casting that game with alls, and that was one of the most wild things that I've seen all split. So that's my answer for this split specifically. If we're going back before, my answer is very clearly Dragoon Lit Esports Pentakill against Mirage Alliance in the promotion tournament. That was the most hype thing.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Those are my answers. Those are my answers.
I knew you were gonna say that. That one's on Grapes is real and everything. That's a good answer. I'll just answer for this split because I have short-term memory. No, that's not true. Although I'm gonna keep it a buck with you guys. So I've actually not casted very many hype games in tier 3 ever because in 2022 I was mostly on desk, and then in 2023 I was in Brazil, and then in 2024 we've been doing tier 3 tonight. So I've actually not casted that many super hype tier 3 games, which is kind of funny to look back on. But Ole Miss is going to be the running trend here. I have two answers. It's either Ole Miss against Winthrop, that game 1. Like, it was like watching a car crash in slow motion in the promotion tournament. I was like, oh.
Was that the also Aurelion Sol like couldn't end angle?
Was there an Aurelion Sol involved? I mean, this was the one where Ole Miss is up like 9,000 gold and has an exposed Nexus and then lost.
Yep, there's an Aurelion Sol involved.
There's an Aurelion Sol involved. Okay, yeah.
I was casting that one with Cubby. That was.
Oh, you were, yeah. Oh, right. That was your like E-sub day, wasn't it? Or no. That was on Wednesday.
Yeah.
That was yeah. Okay. Either way, yeah, that one was fucking brutal. Josh and I were playing Warhammer in the living room with that game like on in the background, and I was like, oh my god, like this is really upsetting. Oh no. And then the other one, also at Ole Miss's expense, was Morningstar White against Ole Miss game 3 in the group stage.
Oh, that was a good one.
That was crazy. That whole series was crazy.
That was probably the highest quality game out of all the ones that we've mentioned. You know, there was
probably
like the can't end. There was like the can't end angles, the like like big throw angles, but then that was just like fight after fight after fight, back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah,
it really didn't seem like one team through. It was just, you know, a very close game that Morningstar ended up winning.
Yeah, that whole series. I would say, I don't know if you agree with this, Grapes. I would say that was series of the year or of the split. I don't know how you feel about that. Either that or Winthrop
like
Blue Otter. Yeah.
Yeah. One of those two.
One of those two.
Yeah, those are probably some of the most exciting. I will say again, like I thought that this was a very fun tier 3 split. And I was glad we got to watch.
This was a good split. I agree.
Yeah.
It was very competitive. So shout out all the players.
All right. Shout out to Samikin. We'll get to some of your other questions later. Speaking of Warhammer, we got one from our good friend Steve Kangas, which I don't really understand, and so I'm going to need you to kind of provide
I can translate here.
Yes. Why will Ben, who is Hawk, still lose to Josh or Joshi even after the Tau Codex comes out? I'm assuming this is talking about Warhammer.
Yeah.
If you want to explain this in maybe some layman terms, that would be helpful.
All right, I got you guys. So, why will Ben, which is Hawk, that was good explanation from you, Grapes, still lose to Josh, who is Joshi? That was also good explanation from you, Grapes. And for those that don't know, Josh is my roommate. And we play Warhammer against each other. Josh has gotten me into Warhammer. Still lose to Josh even after the Tau Codex comes out. So let's explain still lose to Josh. See, Josh has gotten me into Warhammer, and I've been enjoying it. I had played a couple times before, but I'm finally like fully into it. If anyone plays Warhammer, I've been tweeting about it a little bit. You know, always love to talk Warhammer. But I lose to Josh because Josh is very good at Warhammer. Josh is very good at a lot of like things that involve using your brain. It's just Josh is a smart guy. So yeah, it's so funny living with Josh. By the way, he makes me not intentionally like at all. He'll just say something and like on a daily basis, and I'm like, I always forget that you're like smarter than me, but. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I lose to Josh in Warhammer a lot. And then I play an army called Tau. And they basically like release codexes for each army, which are like the rules. So my army that I play is getting a VGU, and the VGU is about to drop soon. So my champion, my army is about to get a lot of changes, and it's about to get a lot better. And I'm still going to lose to Josh, because Josh is a lot better than me, and he goes and like wins tournaments. I've won 2 games in my entire life, 3 games in my entire life.
Hey, that's not bad.
You know,
like that. Those are numbers that you can
Yeah.
be proud of. Honestly,
That's true. Grapes, I want you, before we move on from this question, to guess what my record all time is against Josh in Warhammer. Just go ahead and guess. Like we've played
How many times you played? Yeah.
I want to say we've played 7 or 8 times together.
I mean, you're probably maybe you got one. I'll say you got one win.
You're so generous. No, I'm over, bro. I got really close. I got really close in one game.
Isn't Josh like nationally ranked?
Oh
in
yes.
Warhammer?
Yes. Josh
So,
is Josh is globally ranked.
Globally ranked? Yeah.
Yeah, he's quite good. He's quite good.
So,
Yeah.
I don't think you have anything to be ashamed of.
No, I
there.
don't, but it's funny. Yeah.
All right.
But anyway.
Well, shout out Kangas.
Shout out to
I'm
you.
glad you got to talk about Warhammer. I'm sure there's a couple of fans that are Warhammer fans that were interested in that question. Where do we want to turn to next?
Let's just like alternate between Samikin questions because I think we have as many Samikin questions as we have other questions.
Okay, let's do it.
So we'll take the next one here. This one's a two-parter. One is, do we have a favorite meta to cast? And 2 is casting with certain players. Is it a more hype casting with certain players, or are there like champions that are more interesting? This is a really interesting question because Grapes, at least for the first one, like the meta question, I would say not really because like yes and no. I think I have metas I enjoy watching more, but especially like in the leagues that we're casting, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you guys. I don't think meta like matters that much, so or at least not as much as pro.
Yeah.
And also, you know, I've been only really casting since 2021, seriously, and like I mean at a high level since 2022. So let's say like 2.5 years, right, that I've been casting high level League of Legends. Guys, the meta's not really changed that much since 2022. So
Yeah. I on the meta topic, I think honestly, like my favorite meta is no meta. I like when there's situations where and like different playstyles are good, where there's not one strategy that we continuously see over and over again because it makes the game like less more repetitive and maybe less interesting to kind of to watch, especially towards like the beginning. Obviously, like the more fights, the better for me personally as a play-by-play. Obviously, but also I kind of just like the idea of having a lot of different playstyles be possible and be in the meta, which is why I think Fearless was also a ton of fun because you didn't get the same drafts over and over again, all split. And I think that was good. For the second part of the question, is casting more hype with certain players or mainly champions that are the more interesting aspects? For me, I could honestly care less about the champions that are being played 99% of the time. At this point, like casting and covering these games is so much more about the players. And maybe it's because we're in like this developmental space where we're building up these players and hopefully getting them to the opportunity where they can compete at the pro level. But that is by far and away the more exciting thing. If you gave me like the most exciting League of Legends game with just nameplates off and I knew nothing about the players, I'd say it'd be way more boring than like the most boring game with like players that I know and that I care about and with storylines that I want to push.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. I definitely like champions can make each individual game interesting. But players are what makes the match interesting. And guys, like I don't know if we're all coping pretending that casters don't play favorites, but like I'm a fan of certain players, you know what I mean? I'm a fan of certain teams. And obviously like, we keep it professional on the stream, but we attach ourselves to these storylines that we write them. And oftentimes it's the chicken before the egg, right? Like we write these storylines because we're attached to them and we want to tell them. There are definitely players that I just love to watch more. I mean, just to give like a basic example, right? Part of the like during the Morningstar White thing, I loved watching, and this goes into the meta thing too. I loved watching Sol and Yusin define a meta, right? They didn't do what was standard. They did what they did, and they did it better than anyone else. And I loved that. And I attached to that narrative, right? And I loved casting those players. I mean, dude, I liked watching Samikin blast people on Lux in promotion tournament, like that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I attach myself to players definitely more than champions, but playing unique champions or having a unique playstyle or doing something that nobody else does is definitely an exciting narrative to latch on to.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is like that happening is more interesting because of the player who is locking in that champion. We can ask them about it later and things like that. And so, yeah, interesting question. But I think especially at this level, like that is what is the most interesting thing to cover.
Definitely.
And why we are still doing this, because that at least personally, like that is what the most important thing is for me.
Yeah, definitely players.
Let's move on to another question. Also one directed towards Hawk, which is going to be a fun one. Got our good friend Quax, who asks, Hawk, would you rather fight 10 grape-sized hawks or 1 hawk-sized grapes? I'm assuming we're talking about like the actual objects and not ourselves, because there is a bit of like a height difference, but it's not like that much.
You're like an inch or two taller than me. Yeah.
So 10, obviously you would take the 1 hawk.
Yeah, I'm assuming we're talking like, I mean, could a grape fight back?
I'm assuming we're saying the grapes are sentient.
But like, what does that mean? Like, is it gonna like roll over me?
Like maybe, I don't know. This is the question.
It's only hawks. I mean, hawks are actually pretty small for birds of prey. So I think I'm taking the single hawk-sized grape, just because like 10 grape-sized hawks, you're basically fighting like 10 things that are slightly larger than horseflies with sharp beaks and talons. That actually sounds unpleasant, right?
Yeah.
But a hawk-sized grape is like, okay, it's still smaller than me, and it's still a grape.
Yeah, it's basically just like a watermelon, like like a big watermelon that like is less hard on the outside. Maybe more vulnerable to stabbing.
See, this is what I mean. Like when you say, I assume the grape is sentient. I'm like, what is a sentient grape?
Like, I guess it like can roll around and stuff. Maybe I don't know.
That's so good.
I think the bigger thing is that I think a sentient grape could be more difficult to fight if it was bigger. Like a hawk is not that much. Is not that big where it would pose a threat. And so I would also take the hawk-sized grape.
I would take the hawk-sized grape. Yeah. Okay. Shout out Quax for the great question right there.
I never thought I'd have to think about that.
Dude,
but, that's why we do the Q&As.
This is really funny. Okay, next Samikin question now. This is another lore question. Why the name Srtty Runbak? How did you guys meet to form the duo? What's the lore behind it? Grapes, which of us... We should each answer, like... There's basically 2 questions here, which is why Srtty Runbak and how did we meet? Which question do you want to take? And then I can kind of go into the other one.
I think we'll go with... I'll take the first one, and then I can add on to the second one a little bit. The name Srtty Runbak came when the league NACL was announced, and we looked at the league, and we saw that it was 16 teams with different players, and I reached out to Hawk because I know I wanted to do a podcast, and if there's one person that I work with a lot and enjoy working with, and so reached out to Hawk, said, hey, let's do this show, and we said in terms of figuring out a name, I know we were both brainstorming like different things that we could do.
We had some guys. We're really bad at naming things.
The thing is, like, here's the thing about naming things. You will come up with about 10 to 15 terrible names before you get a good one. Yeah. And I think Srtty Runbak might have been one of the first options that we ended up thinking about, but it was so hard. Like, you look up, like, SALT acronyms or SALT metaphors or phrases and things like that, and there's not a ton of them. Shout out to Saltmine, who actually came up with a good one as well. I think that's a great name for a podcast.
Yeah, we're not super original for the Srtty Runbak name.
But yeah, something that was around Salt because NACL was funny, haha. And I think, Srtty Runbak, run back, you have to run it back. We get to review the games that ended up happening. And of course it's a phrase in gaming as well. So I don't remember which of us exactly. It was kind of just a combined effort, but we ended up deciding on the name. We
both threw a lot of darts at a board. I want to say, and I'm not trying to take like credit here because it definitely was a team effort. I want to say I was the one that first threw out the idea of Srtty Runbak, but it also wasn't like a eureka moment, right? Like we were like, oh, that could be good. And then we kind of thought about it for like another couple days before we circled back to it. So neither of us were sold on it at the beginning. But yeah, it is funny looking back though, Grapes, because I feel like this is the name of the podcast. Like I've never had a doubt. Actually, I really like the name Srtty Runbak, and I think it's really grown on me over time. So I'm proud of how we've done this.
Yeah, no, 100%. And shout out to my girlfriend Hannah, who ended up doing all the branding and designing for all of
Yes.
that. We still use all of the logos today, so
Yes.
it's very impressive. So shout out.
And she made the really cool poster I have on my wall that
True.
if you look at like my pre-broadcast selfies, it's usually
it's
up
back there too, but it's cut out because of the
it's on both.
stream. So
Here, wait,
yeah.
can I move you? Oh no, I can't. Okay.
I think I'm just too. Yeah,
Yeah.
My camera's not positioned the right way.
Okay,
But
it's fine.
Yeah,
It's
that
fine.
was the first half of the question.
Yeah, that's the first half of the question. So that's how Salty Runback came to be. Have loved Salty Runback ever since. How did Grapes and I form the duo? Man, this is a good one because I want everyone to cast their minds back. I want to say it's like November or October of 2021. And no, sorry, 2020. So yes, yeah. Of 2020. You know, we're in quarantine. I'm a sophomore in college. Grapes is a freshman. And I'm going to tell this fully from my perspective because this goes directly into like how did I start casting, where I had always said to like my friends and stuff, I'm like, oh, I'd love to cast League of Legends, like I think I'd be so good at that because I've always talked too much and been too passionate about things, so like naturally, like why would I not cast League of Legends, right? And my friend who's also named Andrew, by the way, but not this Andrew, but my friend Andrew from home. You met Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. He went to LCS with us. Anyway, he gets into a solo queue game with the owner of a league known as Phoenix Rising League, which some of you may remember if you were around in the scene at the time. It is now defunct for many reasons. And
Is it?
I think so.
I have no idea.
I don't know. I assume it's defunct.
I'm
No
not
one that
checking,
I know
but-
casts for it anymore, but and the owner of that league says, "Hey, like come watch my amateur league twitch.tv, you know." And my friend is like, "I have a friend who casts. Do you need any of those?" And he's like, "Yeah, send him on my way on Discord." So I shoot him a message, and like a week later they get me into like the novice league, like, you know, gold, silver, like whatever league. For Phoenix Rising League. For my first ever cast, who am I casting with? None other than Grape. Some dude that I've never met before on the internet. And we do our cast and it's fun, you know. I like people are like,
Yeah.
oh, like Grapes, you complimented me after the first cast. You were like, "Oh, you did a really good job like for your first time." And I was like, "Oh, thanks."
Yeah, for that being the first ever, I mean, I don't know if we could ever find the VOD again. But
No,
like,
I have
for
no
that being
idea,
your first ever show that we ended up doing, like that was impressive.
If we ever could
sure.
find that VOD, that would be like crazy like footage, but
It'd be a lot of scrolling that I'm not down to do.
I mean, it's
honestly.
probably we would probably have to ask one of the people that is in charge of that Twitch, but which I doubt we would do. But yeah, but anyway, so we cast together, and then we work together like very occasionally. Like I know you invited me onto a Tufts stream, for like NACE or whatever NACE
Yeah.
finals in like that
was, like-
spring of 21.
Mhm.
And then the real place where the duo started is that Grapes and I, like, we didn't really work together. Oh, and we did peak performance as well in 2021 spring. But then the
Yeah,
real
Peak performance, which Quacker was a part of, and remember
With
we interviewed him and
Quacker,
he
yeah.
called us out. He was
We-
like, "Yeah, I remember that was the first game we ended up playing,"
dude.
and he actually ended up remembering that too.
Yeah, that is funny. That peak performance. I always forget about that. That was such a like random moment. But yeah, the real moment where I think the duo started in earnest was Grapes and I both like very separately. There was an open application for the Proving Ground Circuit Qualifiers broadcasting team for Unified in 2022. And we both just like applied on our own with our casting reels, right? And we both got hired to do the open qualifiers and we were paired together. And that was like the moment where we're like, all right, we're sticking together. Like we're pretty good at this whole like thing. You know, we worked together a good amount in 2022. And then obviously we started this podcast in 23. Grapes and I met for the first time in person at Worlds 2022 at Madison Square Garden. And then we also met again in person at LCS finals in Newark. So good times. Yeah.
And CLOL, so it's been 3
And
times
CLOL,
now.
right.
Yeah. I mean, you got most of it.
That was a
From
pretty
my
in-depth
perspective-
answer, I know, but
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, I started casting during COVID, during quarantine, where I wanted to basically do something with my time because I was a senior in high school and I had nothing to do during the lockdown. And so I started a League of Legends tournament with some of my friends from high school. We ended up getting 8 teams, like all basically from my school, and I ended up broadcasting and casting all those games, not really knowing what I was doing, kind of just like I ended up actually probably starting to do the cast like as a joke, but then people were like, "Hey, you did a pretty good job at this," and so I got more and more serious kind of as we went on. We ended up running that whole tournament. You can find the VODs somewhere if you look hard enough. I'm not gonna like direct you to it, but you can definitely find them. It's very embarrassing if you ended up actually going back.
Oh no.
But after that, I wanted to do some stuff in the summer because school has ended up wrapping up. I'm still free before I go to college. And GBay99 releases a video talking about all the best like players in NA that you've never heard of. And it was basically what I found out later, an ad by Challengers Uprising to promo their league and to promo Tier 3 and talk about some of those good players in there. I remember the video like talked about APA and it showed Rafa and Cubby and Summer like on their show and Cup and things like that. And so I ended up reaching out to some of them. They directed me around to different places. I ended up talking to Niberia as well, who was part of the space back in 2021. Now does some TFT stuff in EU. And he directed me to the same league that Hawk was working at, Phoenix Rising. My first ever broadcast was not with you, Hawk. It was actually a couple of months before in the summer with Mac Dewey, who we all know now, of course, big collegiate caster, MEC guy. Love Mac as well.
Yeah.
He was off rolling to do color while I was play-by-playing for that league. And then eventually I met Hawk as well.
Yeah.
That cast that I did in a empty classroom that I rented out because I was a freshman in my dorm and I didn't want to like annoy my roommate who was next to me in the same room as me. So I ended up renting out different rooms. That's how I did a lot of my casts back my first year of college. So time is flown, and now I'm a senior. Now I'm graduating in a month. Like holy shit!
I have graduated college.
It's gone crazy.
It has been 3.5 years since we first casted together. That is crazy to me, by the way.
Yeah, we're vets right now.
We are vets.
Like I remember being the new guy.
I know.
Now we're like just the veterans.
When we did PGCQ, when we started for that, I was 20 and you were 19, and everyone was like, "Holy shit, you guys are so young!" And now I've graduated college and I'm 23 and I'm older than everyone that plays in Tier 3. So it's like, ah, shit. But anyway, that was a really way too in-depth answer to that question. But we figured you guys deserve the lore.
If you ever wanted any Grapes and Hawk lore, like, this is where you're gonna.
That's
get
basically like the story. You know, we kind of it really was. I think the big thing is like we happened to randomly cast together once and then twice, and by the time it happened twice in 2022, we're like, well, surely like this is the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shout out Emily Vu by the way for taking a chance on two unknown casters that had just put together their first casting reels and putting them on Proving Ground Circuit qualifiers.
Yeah, I mean,
without her, our careers would be different. So
the Emily pipeline kind of goes crazy. You think about all the people that are working in the space right now. Like Emily's worked with all of them.
The Tier 3 Tonight show is a direct Emily pipeline to Tier 3 Tonight correlation. So yeah.
Oh man. All right. Let's move on to
let's keep going.
This is from Beans, who is a manager, was a manager for Team Fish Taco. I don't know what he's doing exactly right now, but he asked the question: best player in each role that didn't make the promotion tournament. And I think this is interesting. What do you think, Hawk?
Yeah, I think this is interesting too. Kryra is really Kryra is really obvious to me. I think Rox 908 played really well. Levitate, honestly, like still up in that conversation. I'm trying to. I'm also want to make sure I don't forget anyone, but yeah, Levitate. Are there any top laners or mid laners that really? I mean, Robbie, like, duh. But I don't think that's like a hot take. There was not a whole lot of top laners that really stood out to me this split. I'm gonna keep it real. I mean, Yusin, right? But like, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say like if Yusin counts, like
if Yusin counts for sure, Yusin.
I think you got a bunch of them. I think Forsen played pretty well the first qualifier, but in terms of ADCs, I think I would go with Levitate. I think he actually had a pretty good split, even though the rest of his team kind of struggled and lag behind every once in a while. Kryra, of course, is a great shout. Other players like Auto Orange were also pretty good.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm missing a couple people here. Support, I would actually go with Mixture.
Mixture,
really well. Yeah, the whole split. He actually did not get a lot of support and love on our All Pro ballots. Maybe it's just because
we both had
a
second
finish,
team, right?
But he had a great split. I think overall.
He's been tearing it up in the Running the Rift Combine, by the way. So if you're a GM, check out Mixture.
Yeah. I think we got every role. Is there a top laner that we want to shout out? I think Shocky played pretty well in the second qualifier. So I think he took a pretty big leap. He was actually one of the people on my most improved ballot, and so I thought he played a lot better than he did last year. And I hope that we see him again in 2024.
I think that hits
Another person I want
everyone
to shout
for
out
the
as well
most
is
part.
Hoarder, who's in Korea right now streaming after he, was okay on Team Fish Taco his first split. He's definitely looking for a team. He's been grinding, and I respect that. And hopefully we'll see him again in the summer as well.
Yeah. Yeah, good question from Beans. I think it's always good to highlight players that, like didn't necessarily win as much, right? Because there's a lot of great players that have, below just the top teams for sure. With that being said, Grapes, we have a fourth Samikin question. Favorite songs or music genres? Best medium of media. Best medium of media is always going to be film. I was a film major. I love film. I also do love sports broadcasting if you consider that a different medium. I don't know, but
Yeah.
sports telecasts, esports telecasts. I mean, duh. Favorite songs or music genres? I'm definitely really into like rock, alternative, indie, post rock, classic rock, any of those. Favorite bands: Red Hot Chili Peppers, The National, Two Door Cinema Club, Arctic Monkeys, etc.
All right. In terms of media, I mean, if sports broadcasting like television counts as a medium, I think TV is pretty fun. I don't actually watch a lot of movies in television, which is interesting because I'm a film and media studies major at school right now. But I end up focusing more on like this side of that major. Um, Best media. Is there another one? There was just another one that I was thinking of that I can't remember right now, but maybe I'll get back
Podcast,
to that in a
Salty
second.
Runbak
Podcast, yeah. I do actually listen to a lot of podcasts. Not, of course, just like the League of Legends one, but
I
a
don't
lot
know
of
if
like
this is funny.
baseball, basketball podcasts.
I am not a
do.
podcast guy, like at all.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not. So I would not
think
listen to our show.
I got a lot of inspiration from like the podcasts I listen to. Shout out to John Boy Media. They do this show called Baseball Today with Chris Rose and Trevor Plouffe, where they will go through 5 topics in about 30 minutes, and that was actually the inspiration I got for the headlines portion of this, and that's why we started doing it that way on our show. And I think it's a good mix. We have like this more long form section, and we have the more like rigid structured format here as well.
Yeah.
So that's good. Music tastes, I think relatively basic. Right now I'm listening to a lot of Olivia Rodrigo. I think she's fucking awesome. Her and Bruno Mars are probably like my 2 most listened to right now. Also enjoy what do I say here? Like Rina Sawayama, Rex Orange County, and then also a lot of Broadway actually. My family is very big Broadway people.
Okay.
And
Yes.
so I will listen to a lot of Broadway stuff in my free time. Hadestown, best musical.
I do really enjoy Broadway and jazz. I'm a jazz trumpet player, if you didn't know. Or I have been for 11 years. I haven't played in a few months since I graduated, really. But oh, that was almost a year ago. Oh, fuck. Okay. Ugh, I hate that. But yeah, I do like jazz. I love Broadway. Shout out the Maryville players and Chad. I don't know if Chad, you're watching the show, that came to karaoke with us after NACL finals. They saw me and Mark do a duet from Rent at karaoke. So there's some
Wait,
Broadway
which
thrown
one
in
did
there.
you do?
We did What You Own.
Oh,
We
shoot.
did not
Okay,
do
that-
Take
that's
Me
kind of
Baby,
a-
if that's what you thought we were. Or Take Me or Leave
No,
Me, whatever. That one. But.
I was thinking that that one. I don't know how much singing chops you guys have. That's
Well, no, that's why I was
so.
like, I don't know. That's like the cheat. That's like the funny. That would be the funny one to do from Rent. But I
Yeah.
also am not Adina Menzel.
No,
So
very solid. All right, very cool. Thank you, Samikin.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, we got a couple more. We'll get through
We got a
them
couple
here.
more.
We're going overtime a little bit, but that's all right.
It's a long episode.
From Yanni Cass says, if you're a pro player, what role would you play, and would you change your name tag at all? Which I think is interesting. I don't know. I think my tag would stay the same. I think we would both. Well, actually, let's hear from you first.
I'll keep it pretty simple. I would definitely do Hawk, and I would be a jungler, straight up. Because I'm gonna explain some more lore. I know we're running a little over time, but obviously, so my last name is Hawkins. If you didn't know that, and Hawk has always been like a nickname that either I've had or is also my dad's nickname, because my dad, his first name is Dave, and he was born in the '60s when everyone was named Dave. So if you say Dave, like 5 guys turn around, they're like, huh, right? So he went by Hawk instead, right? As like a nickname, and so I took that nickname as well when I was also given a really generic 1-syllable name. And yeah, so went from like Hawk has always been a name that makes sense, and I definitely would stick with that. It's part of the brand. I'm the bird, you know.
Yeah. I had a YouTube channel with some of my friends called Speedy Grapes back in elementary school. You can also look that up. It's still public, unfortunately.
My
Um,
God.
and you
Someone's
can
gonna
watch that to
tweet
embarrass
at
yourself.
you. Oh no.
I think people have it already at some point. And you know what? Like that was my claim to fame. There are some videos on that channel that have more views than some of the videos on this channel. So, that
Really?
kind of is what it is what it is. Yeah, I was kind of popping as a 12-year-old sketch YouTuber. We were
Dude.
like trying to replicate like the Smosh Ryan Higa kind of
Oh,
style of
that's so
stuff.
based.
We were not very funny. So that was the problem. um, I always say I'm like a top laner and I love playing top lane, but I've realized that I'm actually just a better jungler overall, and so I'd probably just end up playing
Really?
jungle if I'm trying to do better.
Oh no.
Yeah, like I will play top lane, I will get shit on every single lane that I play in solo queue, and then I'll just like play jungle. I've like the last couple of days I've just been spamming Rek'Sai games, and I've actually been climbing a little bit,
Wow.
and maybe it's because that champion's broken, but I think I'm probably better at jungle, but also like there are so many of our community, like a lot of casters are junglers, and so I think I have like a better space in another role, and also I enjoy playing
Yeah.
top a little bit more.
Grapes, I got bad news for you. I'm playing top lane again in a caster clash that's happening soon, and
Oh,
I'm sad about it.
well,
'Cause I
good luck.
hate this
Going against
dog
Josh again?
roll. And I'm gonna play against Josh again, by the way. Oh. No, I get it. You get gapped by Hawk Rumble once, and you got to leave top lane, though. I understand.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Sorry, I didn't
All
mean
right.
to.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
No, that's fun. But anyway. We got one from Slayer. First champion you remember mastering, favorite champion you mastered, least favorite champion to play against. I'll keep it quick for myself. First champion I remember mastering is Poppy. Or Braum. I got like really good at Poppy and Braum. Mastered is a really strong word. I was really dog water at the game back in 2016, guys. But like those were the first champions that I really remember like kind of clicking for me. Favorite champion I mastered is Gragas though. He's been like my main for the longest time, but I mostly play just different stuff. But I always enjoy playing Gragas. It's like riding a bike whenever I play that champ. Least favorite, fuck Yumi.
Interesting.
I put
Okay.
him a Van Shaco though.
First champion I remember mastering. So I was actually a support main when I first started playing.
Same.
Because a lot of my friends have actually were playing the game longer than me, and so I was like the new person, and they were like, "We can't put you in like a real role, so like you
Dude,
just play
same.
support." And then like so the first champion I learned was Blitzcrank. I was a big Blitzcrank player. I bought like a couple of the skins, which was, a lot for me when I was younger. So spent probably money that I didn't have on Boom Boom Blitzcrank and Blitzcrank and all those things. And then I became a Nautilus player, especially in the meta where like Nautilus top became a thing. So then I started playing Nautilus top on my own as well. In terms of favorite champion that I've mastered, I would say either Scion, which I have like probably like 500, 600k mastery points on, or Jarvan, who I mained for like 2 years, 3 years, both in jungle and in top lane. So I ended up going on both routes for there. And least favorite champion to play against, I guess just my bans in solo queue. If I'm playing top lane, I'll ban Mordekaiser. I somehow just get skill checked by that champion every single time I play it. I know there's a lot of discourse about Mordekaiser right now. I personally think the champion is broken because I ban it all the time and it's OP. And then in the jungle, I ban Evelynn because I also just I can't with her.
Evelynn, I have a lot of good picks in Evelynn, so I don't think I care about her as much. If anyone ever blind picks Evelynn against me, I play Rengar and have a lot of fun. But that's understandable.
Yeah, I can't play
the
that
last
shit.
piece of lore I'll give you guys. Fun fact: when I started playing League back in 2016, I thought I wanted to be an AD carry player, but apparently when you're new and a disgusting griefer, AD carry is the worst possible role that you can pick up. I'm better at it now, but it was rough for a while.
Yeah. All right. We got a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap up the show. Got one from Shibby. He asked about the CLOL news, which we ended up talking about earlier on, so make sure to check out that part of the episode if you haven't already. Then asked thoughts on the caster ecosystem and the future, which maybe we get a little bit pessimistic again, just in general. But and then he also kind of tied it back to like what kind of our plans are for the future.
Yeah. I'm just gonna like be really candid with, because I think like people that are like up and coming are gonna watch this. Guys, the caster ecosystem is really bad right now. It's worse than it is when we came in 2022, and even we kind of got here late and are feeling the effects of that. Because their spots are only disappearing, not getting added, and so the only way to move up is then to wait for people to leave, right? And that's just how it is. With that being said, I think as long as you're treating esports as like a passion project, a hobby, that kind of thing, like you're chilling. I'm not following my own advice. I have a job interview in esports tomorrow, but but yeah, but that's just gonna be like my really like honest truth about like what the casting ecosystem is. However, thoughts on the future, and moving to Los Angeles. Yeah, so I moved to Los Angeles to pursue entertainment in general, not specifically esports. Honestly, I was kind of trying to find one foot out of the door in esports. I've really enjoyed living in LA. I like the city of LA. I like the culture here. I like what LA is about. I know a lot of people kind of hate LA for similar reasons. The things that people hate about LA don't really bother me. And I have a lot of friends here. I was friends with all the actors and film people and musicians in college. Shocker, a lot of those go to LA. And of course, all these esports people out here. So I've had a lot of really, really good friends that I've been able to like be with since I've been out here. I've been able to do a lot of cool things. Job market sucks a lot, though. I have a job interview tomorrow. I'm hoping it goes well. I'll let you guys know if I get it. But yeah.
Yeah, talk about the ecosystem stuff really quickly as well. I think it's a shame because there are so many talented people right now in the space.
Yeah.
Not only the people that are, quote unquote above us, people working in NACL, people that work in the LCS, but also the people that, are our peers. Some of the people that are in this chat right now asking us questions.
Yeah.
People like Yanni, like Slayer, like Shibby, that have done so much awesome work. And I think are super talented. And I think in a different year, if this was like 2019, 2020, would be getting so many more opportunities, and we would all be getting so many more opportunities because more of those opportunities just ended up existing than they do right now. I remember I was on Cubby's. I was listening back to Cubby's stream. He always does something where he like ends up recapping like the split and things like that. And he kind of reminded me of back in 2021 where people were getting like real paid opportunities to work these tier 3 events, and it was like across multiple different tournament organizers, and a lot of different talent got involved. And now the only people that were covering tier 3 in a paid capacity at all was us, and it wasn't a ton, and it was only like 2, 3, 4 people, production and talent included. And that's just kind of the state of the situation right now and of the economy. And so I would echo Hawk's advice in that. Make sure you're having fun doing this, but also, working on other things on the side.
Yeah.
On that note, I'm graduating in a month, which is crazy to think, but, I do have plans actually to work a little bit in the summer. I don't know if I can like officially announce what I'm doing yet, but, it is kind of in a full-time capacity, although in a like kind of short term. And then after that, we're going to finish out the summer split, and then see what opportunities look like in 2025, and then we're going to kind of go from there. And I think that is kind of the mindset that everyone should be taking, is that, this is not something that you can pursue as a career just right now, but it is something that we can continue to try and eventually be a part of full-time, but also keeping in mind other things as well. Which sucks because I know, as we said again, there are so many talented people in this space, and I wish that esports was able to sustain all of us. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's really the case, at least right now.
Yep. That's the thing. And as far as like the future for esports, we don't really know. We have no plans for summer or anything like that. Salty Runbak probably won't be going anywhere. I can tell you that much.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, like, we don't know. We don't know if Tier 3 Tonight is going to come back. We don't know what Tier 3 coverage will look like. We don't know what NACL, etc. I mean, it's just not possible to answer. So we'll find out, and obviously you'll find out alongside with us.
Our last question, also from Samikin, and I feel like we were holding this one out until the end because I don't know how to answer it exactly. He asks, how do you start a conversation with someone you like and you don't know much about them? With the fingers touching each other emojis. This is not our area of expertise.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I've been in a relationship for like 2 years now, and so I I don't really remember much about all this, but Hawk, maybe you have some additional wisdom.
I do not consider myself a Riz expert. That the fact that I said that should tell you all you need to know. Like, dude, anytime I end up talking to someone, it's completely by accident. It's actually crazy. Like, so I don't know, man. 07 to a soldier. I know. I want to point out Shibby with the quote retweet of like, I don't know what basketball player this is, but with like the shot, taking a basketball
Butler.
shot. Shooter's gonna shoot. Yeah, so that I also want to point out that's not the last question. There was one more from Shibby, which was ass or tits. If you want to find out the answer to that, subscribe to our OnlyFans.
Subscribe to our Patreon. Yeah, exactly. which we're starting now. Announcement. Yeah, I've on answering Samikin's question again. This is not something again that we're experts in, but I've always been the person that was like friends with somebody and then kind of started that relationship after that. So I'm like the bad example here. I have no walk up, hey, how are you doing to strangers. I have zero experience in that field. Yeah. And so I have no idea how to start a conversation that because I've never done it.
This is how my brain works. I'm kind of similar to you, Grapes. I need someone, like if I'm talking to someone, I'm really outgoing and talkative if you get to know me, but I'm terrified of like going up to people. Like that's so terrifying to me. So like you say the first, like if someone says the first word, then I'm like, I'm in there. But yeah, so I don't know. Samikin, maybe you just have to wait until. No, that's terrible advice. But yeah, I'm very much a like hope I get lucky.
Yeah, if you're looking for romance advice from us on Salty Runbak,
yeah,
not the right place, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I don't know, man. All I gotta say, Samikin has been kind of trying to be the Rizzler in my ats. I don't know what's going on there, bro. But
yeah, no, it's very flattering.
It's yeah. No, shout out Samikin, fucking goat. One of the most fun players we have in the scene right now, for sure.
Absolutely, and that's a good way to cap off our episode here. You get the late night vibes. I don't know if you could tell. Once again, we record these episodes pretty late at night all the time, just the way our schedules end up working. But you get a little bit of us maybe unwound a bit with this. So hope you enjoyed. Make sure next time to follow us on all of our social media. So if we do post something like that again, you can ask a question to one of us and we can answer it on the show.
Yeah. And follow us. Follow Srtty Runbak. If you think we have more Riz than we think we do, you can take what we said with a grain of salt. I've been Hawk. That's been Grapes. Watch Running the Rift and support CLOL. Have a great night.